This is a video I made this evening of some new dice pours, a couple of experiments. So this is kind of showing my method for doing everything. I'm still learning how to do editing and voiceovers and all that sort of stuff, so this is going to be a little rough, but I'm learning. So just starting with the two-part epoxy by volume. So it's part A going in, and did quite a few things today. So I did about a cup's worth total of resin. So 4 ounces of part A, 4 ounces of part B, although I did slightly over pour the A, so I had to add a little extra B. But thankfully this stuff is very forgiving, so not a huge deal. But yeah, just getting that ready to go. And I'm working on my setup. I've got a little ring light with the phone mount on it, so you get better picture and better clarity. So I don't like mixing by hand, just because I'm older and it sucks. So I got one of these little resin mixers from Let's Resin that mixes it up in like 40 seconds. I run it for 2 cycles, and then I just kind of scrape down the sides with a spatula and get it mixed the rest of the way. So yeah, mix it the rest of the way by hand, which is just like I said, scraping down the sides, getting the stuff out from the bottom. This does create quite a lot of air bubbles though, so I have an extra step in my process that a lot of other dice makers don't do, which is to put it into my vacuum chamber for about 5 minutes to degas it, pull all those bubbles out of there, which helps a lot. I mean, I have a pressure pot, but it seems like the vacuum chamber just pulls that many extra bubbles out there, so it's, my dice turn out fairly clear. Yeah, here's the vacuum chamber. Very simple, just a pump that sucks all the air out of the chamber and leave it there for about 5 minutes while the gases escape. And here's the clarified resin that's been pulled out of the vacuum chamber. Next, what I do is I separate it out into the various little silicone pour cups, so I can color them individually with mica powders and alcohol inks and whatever I'm using for the various dice that I'm trying to make. Tonight I think I did, 4 or 5 different sets in a big chunk. So for this first set, I'm kind of doing some experimenting with various kind of smoke dice / blood in the water type things. But I didn't want to add anything to the resin, so I'm just using clear resin, filling it up about half to 3/4 of the way before getting ready to run the ink through it. First up, I'm using some black alcohol ink. I'm just putting it into a little tiny silicone pour cup with a toothpick, which is the instrument of choice for adding the ink into the resin. So I'm just taking a little bit of the black alcohol ink, putting it on the toothpick, which kind of just soaks right in, and then just slowly swirling it through the clear resin. And once the toothpick gets resin on it, the ink starts to swirl a lot better. And I'm just doing this for each of the dice here. And next up, we are doing the same thing, just with a crimson alcohol ink, as you can see here. It gives it a real cool, just red, almost bloody kind of look to it. But yeah, same procedure. Use the toothpick, soak up the ink, and just run it through the resin. And here I am topping up the dice with a little bit more resin before going back through to add some more ink. It gives it just a little bit more depth and it's throughout the full dice rather than just kind of in one little section of it. So after I've got the resin poured up and all the ink kind of swirled through the top layer, I go ahead and hit it with my little heat gun to help degas a little bit further. That helps to pop any surface bubbles. You get the same effect with a lighter, but this is a little safer and less chance of your alcohol ink lighting on fire, which I have done once, and that's always kind of scary because it's not the easiest thing to put out. So now we'll leave this one to the side while we get ready for the next set of dice, which is attempted a different type of cloud pour. We're gonna start here with a rose red alcohol ink, and it's a very pretty color. Let's put a few drops into our resin cup and give it a mix with my silicone stir sticks. I've got a whole bunch of these little tongue depressors that are made out of silicone so they don't stick and you can just reuse them, being all environmentally conscious and whatnot. Here's me mixing off camera, so I'm still trying to learn how to keep everything in frame. But it is a really cool kind of color. Wanted it a little bit more red, so I added a couple more drops. And give it a good stir. So after giving it a few stirs to get that color mixed in there, go ahead and fill up the dice mold about 3/4 of the way full before putting in the cloud part of the equation. So next up, after we've got the molds most of the way filled, we take some Piñata Blanco white alcohol ink, and we mix it in with the little resin that I put off to the side. Piñata Blanco is the only alcohol ink that is very, very opaque. It's good for color resin all the way through, which most alcohol inks just kind of give it translucent colors. But Pinata Blanco Blanco actually colors it white, but not as thick as, say, like a white mica powder or something along those lines. So it's the stuff that you use for good Petri style dice. And I'm trying something new. I saw somebody else using these big syringes rather than pipettes for doing this sort of thing. And so I decided I'd give it a try. Kind of mixed results, but I can see some uses for them down the line. So yeah, I'm using these instead of pipettes. They generally work pretty well. It's easier to get the resin to go where you want it to, but it did tend to put out more resin than I really wanted. It's a little more blob-like than cloud-like. So I just used the back of a toothpick that I used earlier, a clean side, and kind of ran it through the blobs to kind of make them more wispy and cloud-like. So hopefully they'll turn out. I guess we'll find out tomorrow night sometime. But yeah, then just topping it up with the rest of the rose red resin, and then we'll put a little on the lid, hit it with the heat gun, and get ready to move on to the next thing that I made this evening. So when you put the lids on dice molds, you want to be careful not to just kind of slap them down and squish them all on the same side at once, because that's how you get air bubbles trapped. So you kind of put them down on one side and slowly kind of like shimmy them down into place, and you'll press out the excess resin out the sides, and it's a very messy process, but doing it this way ensures that you very rarely get any serious bubbles or divots in your dice. It's rare these days that I get any kind of major flaws on them. So yeah, just take your time, be a little careful about it, and you shouldn't have any real issues getting some good clean dice. So the next thing that I was doing tonight was the Chonk. I was doing something kind of interesting. I hope it turns out. But it started off with a little cyan blue alcohol ink, which is kind of a green blue, and a few drops of a liquid glitter that is really great for giving kind of a shimmer and sparkle to dice without big flakes of glitter and without really kind of making it opaque. The cyan was a little bit too green, so I added a couple drops of, I think it's sky blue, just to bring a little bit more blue to the forefront. Got that all mixed in, and then got ready to pour into my chunk mold. So I poured just a little bit of this in here, like maybe, why not even a quarter of the way full, because I'm doing some various inclusions. So I've got a little of this reindeer moss that I'm just kind of putting down on the bottom half of it, and getting it down in there, getting it swirled around so hopefully it doesn't trap any air bubbles, and put a little bit more resin on top of it. And next up, we have this mega liquid core. I got these really big glass balls and was messing with them tonight just because I want to try to do some really cool Chonk liquid cores, and this is my first attempt at them. But yeah, I filled it with one of those new chameleon mica powders that I have that I adore so much, and the colors are really spectacular. I don't know if you could see it very well, but yeah, it should turn out well, hopefully. And then I still have some of these little sea creature resin things, so I'm putting those in there as well along the side. Little jellyfish, and then some more seaweed. Just kind of surround it, but not obscure the liquid core. I really want that to be seen through there, but kind of, mysterious, covered by seaweed and jellyfish and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see how this turns out. So, yeah, after putting a bunch of seaweed in there, we're going to add one last little sea creature up near the 20 spot and top it up and kind of leave this one to degas a while and give any air bubbles that might have gotten trapped under like the seaweed or sea creatures or the liquid core to kind of rise to the top. So, yeah, we'll put that off to the side and get going on our next set of dice. You tap it a couple times and get those air bubbles shaking loose. So this next one is using the new mold that I made myself a couple days ago. This got my logo on the D20. So this is, I just got these little dried real flowers today. I'm not sure what they're from. I'm sure they're dried and dyed as well. But they're very cool looking, and I thought I would try my hand at doing some flower dice. So once again, I'm using some completely clear resin, and I am kind of just individually taking flowers and stuffing it down into the molds and trying to get them somewhat artfully arranged, but we'll see how they turn out tomorrow. This one took a while to do because yeah, those flowers are tiny, and I was constantly pouring new resin after every kind of layer of flowers. So yeah, I think these could be really cool. Once they're done, we will see how they turn out. I'm not going to subject you to the entirety of me putting flowers in there, even though I am running this at double speed. But so we'll just skip ahead to where I'm capping that up, and then just kind of dealing with the leftover resin. So I had a lot of leftover resin, enough to make a full other set. I had plans for a different set, but unfortunately the leftover resin was of the different colors and not just clear resin that didn't have anything assigned to it. So I decided to just make a dump pour set of dice, and which a dump pour is just literally taking whatever resin is left after a dice making session and pouring it into a mold. Sometimes it's just like a single D20 or something like this, but there's enough between all of the things that I made to do an entire set of dice and a couple of extra smaller D20s, and something kind of interesting that you'll see a little bit later. And so here is what I'm doing with the tiny little bit of resin I've got left. I've got these old Star Wars silicone ice making molds that I've never really used for making ice, but I discovered they're the perfect vessel for just any kind of leftover resin at the end of a session of dice making. It's fun to just kind of put them in here, make little Star Wars figures I could never sell because Disney wouldn't appreciate it. But here we're going to have Han Solo in the most festive carbonite you have ever seen. And I apologize for the framing of this, but I didn't want to put it in the middle because you'll see here in just a second that I needed the leftover resin in the middle to kind of finish topping it off. Because I'm super classy like that. I took a couple of tongue depressors and literally just scraped it off and kind of scooped it into the mold. Don't want to waste any resin if I can help it. But just kind of getting it in there. You'll see here in just a second. And yeah, look at that. Super festive. Got all those different colors in there, the pink and the blue and the white resin and the clear with the sparkles, and throwing some alcohol ink on there left over and kind of swirling that through. And hopefully it'll be a little fun little thing. But we will find out tomorrow evening how everything turned out.